Chris's is down here.
Okay.
Yeah, so you should be all set. And then just take it back from him.
Yeah. So,
And
and then
always hold it
after
from the
we
bottom.
have the
Do the photo.
picture and everything, and then I'll just take it back and I'll set it.
Or you can set it at your place setting too. You can do that too. When you're all done with all the photos and you both are sitting down. Oh, because when he's talking, you can just kind of stay there.
Yeah.
You can both go sit down.
Okay.
And one more thing. Shibi.
Yeah. It's okay. This one's low. For a little collar. Yeah. If you can just put a little bit lower. Just a little bit. You're so sweet. Okay, perfect.
How you doing?
Awesome. Perfect. So I'm doing, but wait a minute, this?
What? Yeah, okay. Let me get everybody quiet.
You're going to get everyone quiet?
Yeah.
Okay. And then I'm just going to follow this and not this?
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Shh. We're about to start our meeting. I'd like to introduce you to the chair of the Tapes Committee, the mayor of Reno, Nevada, Hillary Sheep.
Okay, fun fact here. Yours truly was married in Reno. Who knew that? Right?
And I got a puppy named Reno.
And he has a new addition to his family, a puppy named Reno, and his beautiful wife Carlotta. She's here. So where is she?
Here?
There you are. See, right there. Anyway, so you need to come back to Reno so we can remarry you.
Any more information? We're still married.
Oh, well, we can always renew. Good morning, mayors. Welcome to the Arts Breakfast. So, how many mayors are here from the West Coast? Raise your hand. Right on, because it's like, what, 5 a.m.? Some of you have stayed out all night. Anyway, so I'm Mayor Hillary Sheevy from Reno, Nevada. And before we start on the arts, I want to say thank you so much to Mayor Landgraf for appointing me to the Tapes Committee. I'm so excited. I know I have huge shoes to fill, but as we all know, tourism, arts, parks, entertainment, and sports are so important and vital to a community. So I can't wait to work with all of you. This is really exciting for me. So how many of you have ever heard of Burning Man? Right? Wow, I am so impressed. Because it's one of the largest art festivals in the country, and it's right, my city is the gateway into Burning Man. So I have several friends here from Burning Man who are going to show you a plethora of things that happen out on the playa, but I'm excited to tell you that I'm going to be inviting all mayors to come out in August. He's laughing. He's like, really? August 28th and 29th. So we're going to make sure that we send you a Burning Man calendar, and we're going to put it on your calendar, but we'll talk more about that later. And why I want your ears to perk up, mayors, is because it brings in $70 million of economic impact into my city, okay? And now more than ever, we're all trying to attract big companies, retain jobs, and you probably know in Reno, we have attracted Tesla, Amazon, Switch, Apple. I just had Tim Cook in my city doing a groundbreaking, which he never does. So I was very excited, and actually, because I get to speak with all these CEOs, they tell me how important the arts and culture is, so they can really give their workforce something to look forward to and to build a culture around a city. So I'm really excited, not to mention to tell you a little bit about the infrastructure that happens in a temporary city. 75,000 people go out to this incredible event. So, hashtag Mayor Made Me Do It, so stick around, okay? You can all use that one. All right, we need to keep the program running on time. We have a very special guest that will be arriving shortly. I want to thank today's breakfast sponsor, InterDigital. Please give them a round of applause. I also want to call your attention to our 39th annual City Livability Awards program. There's an application and guidelines booklet on each of your seats. It's right here. Okay, everyone got it? Again, hashtag Mayor Made Me Do It. So this prestigious awards program, sponsored by Waste Management for over the past 29 years, celebrates creativity of mayors and their city governments in providing quality of life for city residents. I encourage each of you to apply. The deadline is Friday, March 11th, right here, okay? This is a great thing to do. Today is the day that we join with our good partners from Americans for the Arts to honor public leadership in the arts. To kick things off, I'm going to call upon our wonderful CEO, Executive Director, and someone who I call World Mayor. So come on up. Tom Cochran.
Thank you. We have an important guest this morning. I just wanted to stop and make 2 or 3 comments and thanks. You know, last year when we came here, Bob Lynch and I, who runs American for the Arts, and all of the mayors and all of the business community who supports the arts, you know, it was a cloud hanging over this breakfast because of the funding. The funding for the arts infrastructure of the nation, the National Endowment, the National Humanities, and the Institute of Library and Services, Madam Chair, was on the table to be abolished. So I want to report to you that January, February, March, April, May, the United States Conference of Mayors and the American for the Arts, with Bob Lynch as our leader, Nina, Jay, our teams working together, we have saved it. And we want to thank the Republican leaders. We want to thank the Republican leaders in Congress. They, Mayor Landrieu, they rejected the heritage budget and the Mulvaney budget, and we want to encourage people to talk to the OMB director, continue to talk to him. We've got another budget round coming up. And let me tell you something. We're ready to fight. We're ready to be fierce for the arts of the United States of America. With that, Bob Lynch, the director of the American for the Arts.
Good morning, everybody. It's wonderful to be here again, and I want to start off by thanking Tom because he's been a longtime partner, a longtime friend, and a longtime leader for the arts in America. And you and the U.S. Conference of Mayors are our longest and our most valued collaboration. So it's great to be here once again. I also want to thank Mayor Landrieu for his work and also for his wonderful appointment of Mayor Hillary Sheevey to chair the Tapes Committee. Thank you. I got to see her arts leadership firsthand when I was out in Reno this past year. So it's going to be wonderful to work with her, and she came and spoke with a number of my leaders yesterday. And to Mayor Sheevey, I want you to know that Americans for the Arts is at your disposal to help you advance the arts within this conference, the Conference of Mayors, and to advance America through the arts all across the nation. So whatever you need, we are there for you. It's this very event, this Arts Awards event, that we have been co-presenting for the last 22 years. Amazing. But for the last 22 years that I look forward to the most every year because I see the leadership and the enthusiasm of elected officials working with staff to make cities better. And this year, I brought some special guests with me, including our Americans for the Arts Board of Directors and our brand new chair, Julie Morocco, our leadership staff, and the local arts agency leaders from across the country, including the 60 largest cities, as well as several state arts advocacy leaders and partners. Would you all please just raise your hands and show them where you are? Those folks represent the 4,500 local arts agencies all across our country, and it's wonderful to have them here to see you. Most of them work with you. In addition to co-presenting the 2018 Public Leadership in the Arts Awards today at the Mayor's Arts Breakfast, you've come to rely on Americans for the Arts to share with you the latest in research, in programs, in advocacy that impacts the arts in America and the advancement of cities through the arts. The arts, as Tom mentioned, had quite a roller coaster year in 2017, starting with the proposed elimination of federal funding. But I'm pleased to back up what Tom said, that the solid advocacy support of the Conference of Mayors working with us, with that, the National Endowment for the Arts was saved from elimination, and all the money was restored by the House and the Senate. So I want to thank you for protecting this 50-year investment in the arts in America. Let me just share with you a few compelling reasons that we used to help achieve bipartisan support in Congress. First, the value of the arts, the joy, the beauty, the discovery, it speaks for itself. I've talked to many mayors about how the arts have helped them as individuals and the benefit in their own lives, and that's a personal benefit. But at the same time, they are a great public benefit. So the arts and culture are a great investment in our national economy, representing 4.2% of our nation's gross domestic product. That's nonprofit and for-profit together. The commercial and nonprofits generated $729 billion, a huge industry annually. And to give you some perspective on that, that's a larger share of the economy than transportation, than tourism, or even agriculture. That resonated. People heard that. It made a difference. It gets even better. The arts also deliver an international economic advantage, generating a $24 billion trade surplus in the United States every year as we talk about having a better footprint internationally. Let's face it, the arts mean business. We know that. And if you specifically focus on the economic impact of the nonprofit arts industry, it alone generates $135 billion in economic activity annually to your cities and supports 4.1 million people in full-time U.S. jobs right here at home. Now, we know this because we went out and worked with 350 cities across the country with you over the last year to find this out. You may not realize that these nonprofit arts jobs and activities are responsible for generating over $22 billion in revenue back to local, state, and federal governments. So that's exciting, and it makes a big difference. But perhaps the most important contribution is that the arts help America be all that America can be. You tell me when you look out your windows back home what you see happening on the ground. The arts and culture are what create the unique identities of your cities. The arts and culture create dynamic tourism destinations for visitors, educational and lively programs for residents, and arts therapy and healing programs for those in need, especially our wounded military veterans and families. And we are very proud now to be working with many of you on our national initiative for arts, health, and the military, and also working with the National Endowment for the Arts to expand through the Creative Forces program the great work that's happening at Walter Reed Hospital for returning wounded soldiers through the arts and taking it out to another dozen sites all across our country. I've seen firsthand how the arts have transformed your cities. I had the pleasure to visit over 30 of them in the last year and visit with many of you. I've toured your cultural arts districts and facilities and met with many of you and your local arts leaders. And in particular, I want to just specifically recognize the generous hospitality of two mayors. Mayor Marty Walsh, who hosted our annual meeting of local arts agencies from all across the country in Boston in 2016, and the late and wonderful Mayor Ed Lee. We share in your pain over the unexpected loss of a true arts champion. Mayor Lee hosted our most recent annual meeting in San Francisco this past June. There are so many, many more mayors to thank, so let me simply say, #US Mayors, you rock on the arts. Thank you very much. Now, this would be a good point to go to our first speaker, and then I will be back to talk with you briefly about one of the awardees and the rest of the awards program. So thank you, mayors, for all you do, and it's an honor for me and my membership to be here with you. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, at this time, I've been told our very special guest has arrived. Are you excited? Yes, we're excited? Okay. Mrs. Karen Pence, the Second Lady of the United States, is a mother, a teacher, and an award-winning watercolor artist. But the reason she is here with us today is for her work to bring attention to the importance of the arts therapy. This past October, Mrs. Pence launched her art therapy initiative, Healing with Heart. Now here to talk more about the important initiative, please join me in giving a warm welcome to our nation's second lady, Mrs. Karen Pence.
Good morning. Wow, that was great. Welcome to Washington, D.C. I know that you all have been here for a few days now, and I hope that you have been enjoying your stay in our nation's capital. Thank you, Mayor Sheevy, for that kind introduction. It is great to have you and the rest of our country's mayors under the same roof to discuss and learn how we can make our communities even better. Thank you for your service. Yes, yeah. You know, I was saying backstage that it's so wonderful when you have organizations where you all can get together and share ideas. And when I was First Lady of Indiana, we had the same thing. The National Governors Association would have conferences once or twice a year. And it was so great to not have to reinvent the wheel, to be able to say, what can I do in my short time as First Lady? And so I applaud you for coming and sharing all of your ideas with each other. But for me, it's a pleasure to be here to share about a little bit of what is near and dear to my heart. As Second Lady of the United States, I chose one initiative to champion, and it is art therapy. And I call my initiative, thank you. We call it Art Therapy, Healing with the Heart. Now, art therapy, many of you know about art therapy in this room, but the definition, according to the American Art Therapy Association, is a mental health profession that uses the creative process of art making to improve and enhance the physical, mental, and emotional well-being of individuals of all ages. It is not arts and crafts. Yes, that's right. An art therapist who has at a minimum a master's degree and frequently a doctorate degree helps a client get to the root of his or her problem or issue and works the client through it with the use of art. And I just was in Cairo, and they have one art therapist in Egypt, and she's done a TED Talk. You really should watch it. But she said to me, I try and tell people that an art therapist opens the book, but then an art therapist also helps the client close the book. So we don't want just anybody opening the book who doesn't know how to close the book. And I first became aware of art therapy more than 10 years ago, and I visited Tracy's Kids Pediatric Art Therapy Program at Georgetown Lombardi Comprehensive Cancer Center here in Washington, D.C. And there I saw young cancer patients who were eager to come back for their next cancer infusion. I mean, I was so amazed that you would have children saying, Mom, when do I get to go back to the hospital? You know, I have a master's degree in art education. I taught for 25 years, 12 of them as an elementary art teacher, and I'm a watercolor artist. But I am not an art therapist, and I know that, because an art therapist must be an expert in human development, psychology, counseling theories, and techniques. However, I did know that I wanted to get involved. So I joined the board of Tracy's Kids in 2011. And Tracy's Kids is based here in Washington, D.C., and they provide art therapy programs for children with cancer, just children with cancer, in hospitals around the country. We're now in 5 states, and we have 7 programs. But around the same time that I joined the board of Tracy's Kids, that's when Mike was a congressman, I knew that I wanted to bring art therapy back to Indiana. And I wanted to bring it to Riley Hospital for Children at IU Health in Indianapolis. So I served as the honorary chair of the Art Therapy Initiative to raise money to bring art therapists to that hospital. Because frequently, art therapy is not funded by the hospital. It's privately funded. So it took us about 5 years raising money to be able to now endow 2 full-time art therapists at Riley Hospital. So since starting my role as Second Lady of the United States, I have participated in discussions with art therapists and their clients and observed art therapy programs throughout the United States and in countries in Europe, the Asia-South Pacific region, Latin America, and most recently the Middle East. I just returned this week from Egypt, Jordan, and Israel, where I met with art therapists in those countries, and it was a great trip. Did you know that in Israel there are 7,000 art therapists? I mean, I was stunned. But I've learned more about the profession and the benefits of this unique treatment, from children with cancer to struggling teens. You know, we have a real issue with suicide with our teens all over the world, to grieving families, to people with autism, to military service members experiencing post-traumatic stress disorder, to those with eating disorders. Art therapy is changing lives, and I will go as far as to say art therapy is saving lives all over the world. And now the fun part of my talk. I'm going to share with you some stories. I have heard some incredible stories, like the ones I heard shortly after Thanksgiving when I traveled to New York City. I met with Dr. Irene Rossner David, whose art therapy work at Bellevue Hospital in New York included years of work with clients impacted from 9/11. Irene showed me the artwork her clients had produced over several years, starting with the immediate aftermath of 9/11 and worked up to artwork created in recent years. And the artwork as a whole, as I'm sure you can imagine, shows a transition from images of ash and debris, clouds and fires, to now nature scenes. The work went from dark and murky to more colorful and hopeful, reflecting resiliency and a sense of well-being. For many years, Irene held an annual display of some of this artwork on the 9/11 anniversary, and by doing this, she provided healing for the broader community. Irene also shared several pieces of artwork created by a woman dealing with medical challenges because of 9/11. Many of this woman's pieces of art featured images of the Statue of Liberty. And early in the art process, the Statue of Liberty appeared covered in dust and looked sad and depicted isolation. But over time, the images changed until the client stopped depicting the Statue of Liberty and created an image with a big, strong rainbow. And the client said she stopped seeing bad things and now enjoys seeing color and creating artwork that now feels and looks very peaceful. But this was a woman who wasn't there when the towers fell. She was someone whose job was to measure the air quality. but since she was there during this whole process, she now is suffering and probably won't be around much longer. But she's someone who they told me she can't wait to go to group session, and she works really hard to be well enough to attend her art therapy sessions. But the fascinating thing about art therapy is that the art somehow actually changes our brains. When I first started helping Riley to come up with funds for an art therapist, we realized we just didn't have much research. I mean, we could see that these children wanted to go to the hospital. There's something to that story, but we didn't have the quantitative research. And as you all know as mayors, a lot of times you don't get funding for things unless you can show numbers. But last fall, I helped kick off the 2-day Creative Forces Clinical Research Summit by hosting a breakfast at the Vice President's residence, and it was for experts in the creative arts therapies field. And it was a chance for me to thank the participants for the work that they are doing and express my support for research to advance art therapy. Dr. Thomas DeGraba, a nationally recognized clinical neuroscience subject matter expert who specializes in traumatic brain injury and psychological health conditions, was at the breakfast. He works at Walter Reed National Military Medical Center in Maryland, and he discussed with me how creative arts therapists and researchers are beginning to see an association in emerging patterns of genes being turned on and turned off as they respond to using creative arts therapies. In other words, art therapy is changing the brain, actually healing the brain. And then not too long ago, I visited IU Health Neuroscience Center in Indianapolis, and I met with art therapist Juliet King, who we become good friends for many years, if you all know Juliet. But she works closely with neuroscientists and other medical professionals. They are combining science and art to conduct research and learn more about the processes that occur in the brain during the art-making process. Juliet believes this will provide the foundation for further study of how and why art therapy is effective at helping people heal. Juliet works with clients who have different neurological conditions. I met some of the clients, like Dale, who was in a car accident that has impacted the functioning of the left side of his body. Dale shared that he prefers art therapy to verbal therapy because he is able to let go as he does art therapy. Art therapy has helped with some of the physical challenges that Dale faced following his car accident. For example, even though he is right-handed, he does art therapy work with his left hand to help engage some of the physical difficulties that he's experiencing on the left side of his body, while he also, when he's doing the art therapy, is working through emotional challenges. But I've heard some other amazing stories. Last fall, I traveled to Tampa, Florida, to attend the Creative Forces Summit. In Florida, the Creative Forces program has 2 programs. One is the traditional art therapy program, but one is a telehealth program to try to bring art therapy to more service members, including those who may live far away from a military installation. So for those of you who are mayors of maybe a more rural community, I was astounded that these art therapists were so excited about a telehealth art therapy program, but they said it's just doing wonders. During my visit, I met with several vets, including Marine Chris Stowe. He was amazing. Chris said, "I can say without reservation that art therapy saved my mental health, my marriage, and ultimately my life. I was on the verge of giving up on ever getting better until I found art therapy, and I continue to use art therapy to this day. But Chris demonstrates his commitment to art therapy by advocating for more veterans to know about the healing power of art therapy. And you know, our veterans, a lot of times they don't want to try art therapy. It doesn't sound like something, you know, they're very tough and they're very strong, and they can't imagine that the arts would be something that would help them. A lot of times they say to us, you know, I'm not good at art. But you don't have to be good at art for art therapy. But so Chris, he reaches out to these vets because he's one of them. And he also teaches glass blowing to veterans at studios in Florida, an example of the military art therapy community trying to bring more art-making opportunities to veterans. During a visit to Schofield Barracks in Hawaii, where they have creative arts programs for service members, spouses, and their children, I spoke to a soldier who had experienced suicidal thoughts. But you know, the thing about Schofield Barracks, and this is maybe an idea some of you might take with you, they have open art sessions for the families. And so the vets come in and they get started and they see their family enjoying it, and then they can focus on getting the vet into an art therapy program. But this young man said that he was suicidal to me, but he told me that art therapy helped him. And he said, I don't go to that dark place anymore. He specializes in working with clay. And he actually started a program where the community could come to the local museum and just work with clay. And I was so intrigued by the use of clay and its ability to help so much with the healing process. So I asked an art therapist, why is clay so powerful? And she told me that when you work with clay, there is nothing between you and the art-making process. There's no pencil, there's no paintbrush. And she said clay touches the area of the brain dealing with memory because you're working with it. So clay can be a powerful art supply when people are dealing with any kind of trauma, including a natural disaster. So after Hurricane Maria hit Puerto Rico, the Vice President and I traveled there to provide support and encouragement. And I had the chance to meet with an art therapist who was working with children who were in a homeless shelter who had been impacted by the storm. But before I got there, I had my staff reach out and say, you know, is there something we can bring? Is there something she needs us? We can bring supplies on the plane. And she said she couldn't get her hands on clay. And she really wanted the children to work with clay as a way to help them and cope with the devastation. And I knew we are onto a good art therapist here. She knows what she's doing. So it was a great privilege to be able to bring her and the kids clay. So I obtained the clay from my local art supply place that I went to when I was an art teacher out in Virginia. And we took it with us on Air Force Two, and we delivered 120 pounds of clay to her and the children. I bought everything that they had of the air-dry clay. But there are so many powerful stories, so many examples of art therapy, and examples of how we can rally as a community to help people heal. And I applaud all of you for wanting to do that. So by making art therapy my initiative, I have 3 goals. You know, I met with a lot of experts in art therapy and the medical field, and we all got together last May, and I said, let's talk about some ideas. And man, they had a lot of ideas. But I knew my time is limited, and I want to focus on ways that we can really help art therapy. So first of all, I want to elevate the profession. I want people to understand these are mental health professionals. They really know their stuff. You know, I was at a dinner several months ago, and the person next to me said, oh, what is your initiative? And I said, art therapy. And she said, oh, that's nice. And then we didn't talk about it anymore. And I thought, wow, that's what art therapists feel like all the time. They're so misunderstood. It's not arts and crafts. These are people who are experts in mental health. So I want to elevate their profession. I want people to understand these are amazing people. But number two, if we do our job of getting the word out about art therapy, then we're going to need more art therapists. And so I want to encourage young people to go into the profession, to know that this is something you might want to do. And lastly, I want people to understand it's an option. It's an option for all kinds of issues, which we've talked about today. All of us are dealing with some kind of pain. And sometimes a therapist that we can talk to helps us, but it might just be an art therapist, might be the person that you can work with. In Cairo, when I met with this art therapist, they had worked with some people on a 4-day program. People who had gone through terrible torture and trauma. And it was stunning to me to hear the stories of how 4 intense days changed these people's lives. So sometimes it's not even something you need to do long term. But art therapy, I hope you've seen with some of my stories, is saving lives. And I encourage you to reach out to the American Art Therapy Association. We have art therapists all over the country, and if you want to see how you can help, that's the best way. That's the best way to elevate the profession. And sometimes the art therapists in your community might say, you know what we really need? We just need art supplies. It's an expensive profession. And frequently, they're privately funded. So there's a real need for the communities to get behind them and help them raise money for their profession to survive. But I just encourage you to foster the connections in your own communities. I applaud you because I understand this is the arts breakfast, so you're all here because you care about the arts. But what a beautiful thing to take art and save someone's life. Thank you.
Photo with the group, please. Please come this way, please.
Okay, we're gonna. Yes. Thank you so much for your support. It is so important your story that really gives substance.
All right. Thank you so much, Mrs. Pence. So inspiring. Wasn't that incredible? Give her a huge round of applause. All right, now back to our awards program. I'd like to call up a dear friend of mine, and it's someone who I call a 24/7 mayor. She was my buddy when I first got to Conference of Mayors 3 years ago. So I have so much respect for her because honestly, I can text her at 2 a.m. or it doesn't matter, at 5 a.m. she gets back to me right away. Most mayors do, but I'm so grateful because we're on a different time zone. So she's really, really ready to kill me whenever I'm texting her at 3 a.m. But anyway, my dear friend and Mayor Elizabeth Kotz, a past honoree, to present our next award. Please come on up.
I love this mayor. She is just absolutely phenomenal. And I was honored to be her buddy, and we have become such good friends. And we were just at Harvard, and one of the things is that we do embrace being 24/7 mayors. And so we have a club that's called #24/7 Mayors Club. But I'm here with great privilege and honor to recognize a phenomenal mayor who has done wonderful things for the arts in his community. Mayor Javier Gonzalez, within 60 days of taking office, Mayor Gonzalez convened over 100 community leaders to frame his administration's work in arts and culture. This focus has continued throughout his term as mayor. Mayor Gonzalez called for Santa Fe's first cultural planning process. The resulting documents recognize the power and the strength the arts and culture have to connect the people in Santa Fe. He championed the creation of a full-time position to support the work. Finally, under Mayor Gonzalez's work, he championed the annual city support for arts. And this has exceeded $1.5 million, an impressive amount for a city that's only 80,000. For these and many other accomplishments, we present Santa Fe Mayor Javier Gonzalez with the 2018 National Award for Local Leadership for cities under 100,000. Mayor Gonzalez.
Say something, right?
Ready? Okay. We go left, we go right.
I'm on the end. I know you're not. You gotta be in the middle there. You know it's this. All right.
Mayor, why don't you come up and say a few words? I'm one of those mayors. I just love to embarrass people, so come on up.
Good morning, everybody. Let me begin by saying thank you to the Americans for the Arts and the U.S. Conference of Mayors for recognizing my incredible city, Santa Fe, with this award. We are the home of people like Georgia O'Keeffe and George R.R. Martin and D.H. Lawrence. We are the home that our indigenous populations have called home for more than 1,000 years. We know that because of our multicultural mix in our city, the creativity index and the opportunity to create wonderful, one-of-a-kind, authentic art exists. And from the Santa Fe Opera to the Georgia O'Keeffe to a museum system, Santa Fe has really punched above our class when it's come to being able to present incredible arts organizations and institutions. The challenge has been, though, for all that has been great in the area of art, too many of our local people are being left behind. 30% of our children are going to sleep at night hungry. 27% of them wake up in families where there's economic insecurity. Too many of them are going to school not able, prepared to learn. And we absolutely believe in our city that the arts can play an important role in making sure that our children have pathways up to their passion as opposed to pathways into the criminal justice system, which happens far too often. But what I will leave all the mayors for, what has worked for us in Santa Fe can work in cities with two main ingredients. One, you have to have a dedicated funding source, so being able to commit to make sure that year over year the arts have access to public funds is critical at the local level. And the second part is having intentional policy that brings people together, that recognizes the strongest that our arts organizations are, the more strong they are, the more opportunity there is for young people, for families to be able to participate and become truly part of arts organizations and see that transformation in their communities. So thank you all very much for this incredible award. This is my last conference of mayors as a mayor, but I will tell you that this organization, both the Americans for the Arts and the Conference of Mayors, both those organizations have invested in my own development and my own learning, And I want to assure Tom and Bob that as I go forward, what I've learned being a mayor, especially in the area of the arts, that I'll continue to take forward and promote throughout our communities in New Mexico. So thank you all very much. Thank you for the award.
Thank you. Congratulations. All right, this next award is very exciting, and I'm going to actually call up another dear friend of mine and very special mayor, Mayor Barnett, to come up and to give our next award. This from here.
Good morning, everyone. From the start of his first term, Dallas Mayor Mike Rawlings wanted to be known as the Arts Mayor. And since taking office in 2011, Mayor Rawlings has taken the lead and used his bully pulpit to talk about the importance and the impact of the arts on the city's economy and the quality of life. Mayor Rawlings began Dallas's Art Week, which has now expanded into a month-long celebration in April of each year. The mayor has created a new cultural policy for the city, which includes the first-time use of the city's hotel occupancy tax towards those arts. Congratulations to Mayor Mike Rawlings for receiving the 2018 Local Arts Leadership Award for Large Cities. Ladies and gentlemen, my friend, and many of you don't know, the co-chair with myself of the very exclusive Tall Mayors Caucus, Mayor Rawlings.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
That's awesome. Oh, you got the award right here for you, sir.
Oh, good. We don't have to do one of the big pictures.
Here you
Okay.
go. Right, there we go. Okay, right here. 1, 2, 3, suck it in.
I think she's talking
I'm
to
just
me.
saying it's on
She's
taller.
just talking. No, you're talking
Just
to
trying
me.
to be taller.
Thank you so much, Mayor Barnett. Thank you to the Americans for the Arts. Thank you for the Texans for the Arts as well. They nominated me, and we have a lot of wonderful things happening in Texas. Dallas has made so much progress in the last decade. We have believed that arts are important to our citizens and to our city as a whole. That's why over the last 20 years we have completed the largest arts district in the United States, the largest contiguous arts district in the United States. For those of you that came to our event, you got to see Bonnie Raitt and Lyle Lovett and all those guys play in it. And so it's part of what Dallas is about, but we're taking it to the neighborhoods as well. I believe arts are important for two important reasons for me. First of all, strategic. It is a business driver. There is no question. We just did a prosperity study, and we found out that we were expecting to kind of double the economic impact since 2010. We tripled it, and we have got now 33,000 full-time jobs around the arts. And we have, thank you, an economic impact of almost $1 billion. And I know that's probably not as much as New Orleans and Reno, but we're getting up there. We're starting to get there. So it's important. But I will tell you also it's on a personal level for me. I was an artist in college, if you didn't know that. And I studied it avidly, and then I realized I was no good at it. But I've always wanted to impact the arts, and I've done that now as mayor. But more importantly, I've done that as a father. My daughter is a working painter and artist in Dallas, and has studied at RISD in Providence, and been in the Bronx, and all over in Brooklyn, and all over the place, and now has come back home because she thinks it's a good arts community. So it's a good thing as a father to create an arts community for an artist, because they might show back up for Sunday night dinner. So thank you for this award, and let's keep writing, let's keep singing, let's keep painting, let's keep being creative in this country, because it's the one thing with that and our faith-based community that gets us to that self-actualization, that enlightenment that we all need as citizens. God bless you. You can see why he received the award. He's an amazing man.
All right, at this time, I have the privilege to call up our president and my other dear friend, Mayor Landrieu.
Hey, good morning. Good morning, everybody. Mayor Rawlings, thank you for that. I think you said it exquisitely and well. We know now that art means business, art means jobs. The second lady gave us a really good understanding of the importance of art therapy, and so we now know that art is a life-giving force as well. And Bob, thank you for all of your work. I have the pleasure of introducing to you a gentleman named Michael Cerveris. He is a two-time Tony Award-winning stage and screen actor and musician. He has long been an advocate for the arts and numerous humanitarian causes, and someone who I have come to know as a true friend of New Orleans. He was born in Bethesda, and his career is rooted in New York City, given his successes on Broadway. He has been on Broadway 10 times. You've seen him in Sweeney Todd. You've seen him in Evita. You've seen him in Fun Home. You have seen him on TV in The Good Wife. He is one of the renowned actors in the United States of America. And he has also been someone who has used his art, his skill, and his commitment to help arts in the city of New Orleans and in the nation. And so would you please help me welcome Michael Cerveris, who for many of his other accomplishments on behalf of the United States Conference of Mayors and the Americans for the Arts, we award him the 2018 Citizen Artist Award. My friend and a great friend to the people of America, Michael Cerveris.
Thank you very much. First, thank you to Americans for the Arts and to Mayor Landrieu and the Conference for Mayors for this great honor. I have to tell you, I was honored just to be invited to breakfast. You know, actors and free food. But following the principled statements and actions of many at this conference on Wednesday, this honor is all the more meaningful to me. It's especially gratifying to be presented this award by Mayor Landrieu. I still remember picking up the Times-Picayune on the day of his first inauguration and reading an interview in which the man about to take the oath of office let the people of his city know that while he was humbled and honored to be their chosen new mayor, he'd always grown up wanting to be an actor, and if the people from Les Mis on Broadway happened to call, well, he was going to have to do some real soul-searching. Mayor Landrieu has guided the city of New Orleans through an astounding journey of recovery and rediscovery, passionately and personally gathering its wildly diverse communities together to ask hard questions about who we are, who we want to be, and sometimes why we have to change. It always has, but America could still learn a lot from New Orleans. Learning and the arts were at the core of the home where I was raised in Huntington, West Virginia. My sister, brother, and I all ended up with careers and lives in the arts. Now, those of you who are mothers and fathers are probably certainly thinking, his poor parents, where did they go so wrong? But it was from my parents, artists and educators themselves, that my siblings and I learned that an artist's life is a good and honorable one, because it is a life of duty and service, a duty to be educated, compassionate, questioning, and restless in the pursuit of what is true and what is good, and a service to honor those who came before us, to benefit those all around us, and to provide for those to whom we will one day leave some shape of a world. But also because I am the proud grandson of immigrants to this country, we were taught that to be a good and honorable citizen also demands the same life of duty and service. So while I am very grateful for this acknowledgement today, I am somewhat embarrassed to accept thanks and praise for simply doing what I was taught a person should do. But I will accept it on behalf of my grandparents, parents, and siblings, and all the teachers, colleagues, and artists who have inspired and taught me by their works of imagination and of action in the world. I'm profoundly honored by this recognition, though in my heart, I know that there are many artists more deserving of this honor. As a straight white male born in this country, I know and am daily reminded that there are so many women artists, artists of color, lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender artists, citizens, refugees, and dreamers in every sense of the word who must endure far greater challenges than I have ever faced just to be able to learn, grow, create, and sometimes even simply to live without fear, without being told that they must convert who they are, or that they cannot find sanctuary in our country. Those artists and all who encourage, teach, support, and protect them deserve the greatest of honors and respect. I'll close with a final thought from my artist. Thank you. I'd just like to close with one final thought. As the Time's Up signal has been here for some time now. I'll close with a final thought from my artist and educator father, who, when I told him I'd be invited to say a few words to this impressive assembly, told me, "You can be nice about it, but tell them that in a time when truth and facts seem to be suspect, the most decisive truth can be found in the arts." And I would add, with his blessing, I think, that to find that truth takes dedication, education, and funding. I'm just putting that out there. Thank you all very much.
All right, Michael for mayor, right? Right? Oh, you have the same haircut. Is that what you're saying? That was beautiful. Thank you so very much. Very, very touching. Thank you. All right, give all these award winners a huge round of applause. Woo! Now, before we finish our discussion of the arts, I would like to invite each and every one of you to come to Reno and enjoy Burning Man with me. And I don't know if you know this. Do you know how hard it is to get a ticket to Burning Man? It sells like in an hour. So, and then they did sort of a lottery system. So this is really special. Some of you guys are kind of looking at me like, no way, really? But you have got to see it. It's truly remarkable. It will take you on a journey to experience creativity and art unlike anything you have ever seen. A city in the desert whose culture is defined by words such as gifting, inclusion, self-reliance, and participation. A community where you're immersed in artistic expression and sculptures that are larger than life. And that is no joke. Some of you in this room, some of you mayors, how many of you have a Burning Man piece of art in your city? Because I know we have several mayors that do, but let me tell you something. We have this incredible sculpture, and it says "Believe" on it, and it's been getting more traction and more captures than our Reno Arch. If some of you have been to Reno and see the Reno Arch, you should see this "Believe" sign. And then there was another city, and I don't know which one, but they bought the "Love" sign. And it's just huge, it's massive, and it's truly incredible. A culture whose residents come from all over the world and put aside their differences to experience community and art with no boundaries. Yes, I am talking about Burning Man. What was once a small gathering has turned into one of the largest festivals in the world, and Reno is the gateway to this incredible event. Every year, tens of thousands of burners, 75,000 to be exact, come through Reno on their way to the Black Rock Desert. There, they'll construct a Black Rock City, a temporary community built on the ethos of self-reliance, artistic expression, and leave no trace when their week-long event is complete. It's amazing. They construct an airport. They have a post office. They have a fire department. For mayors, because we all know how important infrastructure is, I was blown away And this is something, a sight to truly, truly see. And again, the economic impact of the arts, I don't have to tell you, mayors, but it is so important to our communities, what the arts and culture bring. And like I said, I can't begin to tell you, Elon Musk goes out to Burning Man. And so really to have it in my city, I can't even begin to tell you enough how important the arts are. I'm going to show you a quick video. So I'm excited. I have some friends here from Burning Man, and I'm going to introduce my great friend Megan Miller, Director of Burning Man Communications, after we show this video. I know I've got to wrap it up because we have another really special guest that I can't wait for you to see, but let's roll this video. Introduce to you a very special person. I'm so excited that you're here so you can give us the big rundown on Burning Man, but thank you so much for being here. Megan, take it away.
Thank you, Mayor Sheeby. Good morning, everyone. This actually isn't my first time at the U.S. Conference of Mayors, but the last time I was here was as a staffer for Senator Barbara Boxer, and that is the same job that led me to Burning Man for the very first time. That's a story for another time. We don't have time for that now, but I want to tell you a little bit about what we do in the desert. Each year in August, Nevada's Black Rock Desert gives rise to the nation's largest temporary metropolis. We call it Black Rock City. Here, 75,000 individuals come together to create, to connect, and to collaborate. They come to immerse themselves in a culture that celebrates experimentation and participation. So as the organizers who help to make this city possible, we, somewhat like you, are stewards of a city. Like yours, as Mayor Sheeby was saying, we have medical services, we have radio stations, we have a daily paper. We have a post office, a DMV, and we have an FAA-designated airport. For 1 week each year, Black Rock City actually becomes the third largest metropolitan area in the state of Nevada. So, perhaps like you, we spend a lot of time thinking about urban design, about traffic patterns, and about the importance of open space. We have spirited debates about zoning, public safety, and the best ways to manage growth. We even get to deal with citizens complaining about potholes. Admittedly, there are many complex challenges that you as mayors face that we do not. Our city only lasts for 8 days a year. But we do think there are some interesting lessons to draw on from this annual experiment in civic design. So what makes our city unique? For one, like I've said, we build it every year from scratch. We iterate based on what we learned from the year before. It's a little bit of a city planner's dream. Secondly, nothing is bought or sold at Black Rock City. There are no trash cans. Life is unmediated by corporate influence, and everyone is responsible for bringing whatever it is that they need and taking it all away with them when they leave. It's a city that values making over consuming and what you do over what you have. In fact, everything beyond core infrastructure in Black Rock City is completely participant generated. From our libraries and cafes to nightclubs and our public transportation system, everything that happens in Black Rock City is conceived, built, and maintained by its residents. And that includes over 400 collaborative art installations and countless other works of art. So Black Rock City is really the ultimate participatory city. It's a place where ideas come to life, ideas that bring people closer together, ideas that change the way you see yourself, your relationship to others, and the potential that you have to make change in the world. It turns out that when people build their own city, they are deeply invested in what happens there. They take care of it, and they take care of each other. Black Rock City, for all of its perceived anarchy, is probably the safest place to be on Labor Day weekend. And Burning Man isn't just happening in Nevada. Mayor Sheevy mentioned there's many cities who've purchased Burning Man art and placed it in their hometowns. For more than 2 decades, participants have been taking the lessons and the inspiration out of the desert and into their year-round lives. We now have 80 official annual events around the world. There are 300 Burning Man ambassadors that are located in 44 US states and 37 countries. Many of you, perhaps even most of you, have Burning Man communities in your own backyard. And these people are engaging in all kinds of ways to make the world more like the one they want to live in. From large-scale public art projects, solar installations, and beach cleanups, to parklets and disaster relief efforts, so-called burners, as we like to call ourselves, are rolling up our sleeves and remaking our hometowns into more vibrant, inclusive, and resilient communities. Actually, right here in the nation's capital, there's a group of local burners who produce an event called Catharsis on the Mall. I think we have some Catharsis event producers, so I want to say thank you. Catharsis on the Mall is a 3-day event that takes place right at the base of the Washington Monument. It's pretty amazing to get to build and burn art right at the base of the Washington Monument. And just down the street, on March 30th, the Renwick Gallery of the Smithsonian will open an exhibition dedicated to large-scale participatory art and the maker culture of Burning Man. So these experiences and environments are creating activated citizens. They have the collective potential to create great change on the planet. And we believe our job as leaders is to then build a platform, to extend an invitation, to create conditions that encourage experimentation, citizen-driven solutions, and high levels of participation. If you ask 20 people what Burning Man is, you're likely to get 20 different answers. It's a city in the desert. It's a global network of makers. As Mayor Sheevy mentioned, it brings $70 million into the local economy in northern Nevada. And if you take her up on her invitation, you'll get to answer that question for yourself. You might find yourself at the edge of your comfort zone out on the playa, but you'll probably also come back with some new questions about how to engage with your communities and how to encourage innovation and creativity. I want to just say thank you and honor one of our co-founders who's here today, Crimson Rose. Crimson Rose has been involved with producing this event and leading this crazy experiment since 1991. Thank you for being here, Crimson. My experience here at this event this week has made one thing very clear. Mayors are doers. This is a room full of people who make things happen. And our Burning Man community is also full of people who do what it takes to get it done. So I'm thrilled to be here. I'm excited to see what we might be able to do together. I want to thank Mayor Sheevy for your leadership, for recognizing the benefits of Burning Man culture, and you've really taken the lead in Reno, and I appreciate you so much. I look forward to many more things together in the future. And if you have not had enough Burning Man after this, please join us. We're having a session at 9:15 in the South American room at the end of the hall, and we'll dive deeper. So thank you so much for the warm welcome. I do hope to see you in our city at the end of the summer.
honestly, I can't even, I'm sort of speechless when I talk about Burning Man, because I remember all my friends would go out there, and I'm thinking to myself, I don't want to go out there. That sounds terrible. I don't want to be dirty and, right? And I know, isn't that terrible? I said that in my out loud voice. But I have to tell you, so, you know, as mayors, you get to do incredible things in your city. One of the things that I love to do is I love to go to the Reno airport and greet people from all over that come in. Because when you walk in, you're like, hi, I'm the mayor. They're like so impressed that the mayor would be at the airport, right? Their faces are like in shock. So I did it one year when the burners were coming through, and they were so incredibly kind. And you heard Megan, it's on the sharing economy out there. You cannot use money. So it really is so interesting. Like she said, they are shaping their community, just like our constituents should be shaping our communities, right? So I have to tell you, mayors, listen to me when I tell you this. You will learn something from Burning Man. It is impressive. I was blown away by what I experienced. So that's why I wanted so badly to invite all of you. I'm really excited that we're going to make it a reality. Like Megan said, to learn more about it, we're going to have a Q&A. I mean, to have the Burning Man, my Burning Man friends here is truly amazing. Crimson Rose is amazing. This exhibit that's coming to the Renwick, that doesn't happen if you are not fantastic. So it is exciting, but we're going to have Q&A, so I'd love for you guys to come. We're going to bring out this calendar. We're going to send this to you August 28th, 29th. Last but not least, and we're going to send out the information to invite you to Burning Man. Last but not least, there was also an exhibit. Did you see it, Before I Die? Who's seen that? And I think it started in your city. Did it start? I think it started, remember, Before I Die, and everyone wrote in? Well, mayors are going to get to participate on the Black Rock Desert before I leave office. So you guys are going to have now a piece of art in the Black Rock Desert before I leave office, and I think some of you mayors already did that. Anyway, they're saying time's up, time's up, time's up. Get off, Hillary. Anyway, I got to go. I'm going to send it right back to my dear friend, Mayor Landrieu. Thank you.
This is an arts awards break. Artists know what it's like to get yanked. Hillary, thank you so much, and Michael, thank you for that beautiful speech. We are honored to have just an incredible guest and a supporter of mayors, Honorable Nancy Pelosi, who is the leader of the House of Representatives on the Democratic side. She is the daughter of a mayor of Baltimore and the sister of another mayor of Baltimore, and she carries the spirit of mayors in City Hall with her and understands that cities have to be strong and have to be a direct partner in Washington, D.C. and with the federal government in order for this country to work well. She has hosted our delegations every time that we have come to the Capitol. When cities in America like Flint or any other cities were in trouble, she is always there to represent us, understand us, and to know us, and she has been a great friend. So would you please help me welcome Leader Pelosi, who went through great lengths to be with us this morning. Leader Pelosi, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. It's a wonderful honor to be here with each and every one of you. I thank you for your leadership for our country. I particularly want to acknowledge the great leadership of Mayor Landrieu. I thank him for his kind introduction, but more importantly for his visionary leadership as Mayor of New Orleans and also as a spokesperson for our values in our country. Mayor Shibe, I mean, we're so excited. This was such a treat to learn more about Burning Tree. So we'll see you there. All right. Some of my, shall I say, contemporaries have been, and we said, I mean, did you feel kind of like out of place or something? But they said, no, come on in. It's all great. But that was great, Megan. Thank you. for your beautiful presentation about how the arts and infrastructure of cities come together. I want to thank Bob Lynch and to congratulate Michael and all the people who received awards today on the arts. On other occasions, we've seen people get awards for their leadership in the cities on climate. Again, the mayor's in the lead. And then in terms of the arts, this is so very, very important to who we are as a country. The arts, I believe, are the most unifying feature of who we are as a civilization. The poet Shelley once wrote, "The greatest force for moral good is imagination." Think about that. Imagination, the creativity to think in new, fresh, entrepreneurial ways. Imagination to put yourself in other people's shoes and understand their point of view. And now we know we need all the imagination we can get to bring people together. Every place I go in the country, I say this, not just here at the Mayor's when you're saluting the arts. The arts are the most we laugh together, we cry together, we're inspired together, we put our differences aside. Thank you, Bob Lynch. Thank you to the mayors for acknowledging the important role. President Kennedy always talked about how central it was to the soul of our country. Congratulations to the winners. I come to you at a very sad time for us because we lost our dear Mayor, Ed Lee, just a short time ago, a terrible surprise to all of us. He was a wonderful mayor. Everyone loved him. And he also was so positive about everything. He was warm, and he had a dedicated life of public service. As you know, he was our chief administrative officer before, so he knew how to run a city, and he was greatly respected and will be sorely missed. So sad about Mayor Lee. As Mayor Landrieu mentioned, my father was mayor, my brother was mayor, and when I was in first grade, my father was elected mayor of Baltimore. When I went away to college, in my first year of college, my father was still the mayor of Baltimore. So it was the only life I knew, and it was the appreciation there, and then of course later my brother was mayor, but growing up in that atmosphere, I realized, how close you are, no buffers. People know who the mayor is. They know who the President of the United States. All of the rest of us are just a haze in between there someplace. They know somebody must be a member of Congress, but in terms of the mayor, they know, whether it's their trash not being picked up, water in the basement, whatever it happens to be. But more importantly, you have been the most entrepreneurial force in our country, as you have to get the job done, and you've been so creative, poet Shelley, in your ideas and coming together and building consensus to be a force. Our towns and cities, as we all know, are the dynamic engines of prosperity in our nation. Your success drives America's success. As the prophet Jeremiah said, "Seek the peace and prosperity of the city, because if it prospers, you too will prosper." You intimately understand the priorities of the American people, and you deliver. Keeping streets safe, schools strong, businesses booming, and that leadership, again, is needed more than ever. I'm here to give you a report, bring greetings from the Congress of the United States to welcome you to Washington, D.C. And I always want to put things in a temporal marker. We're here at a time of great stress in our country. A dark cloud hangs over the Capitol, and that dark cloud is the tax scam that the Republicans just passed. It's a tax scam that professes to be about the middle class, and yet 86 million middle-class families will have their taxes raised. 83% of the benefits of the tax scam go to the top 1%. Nearly $1.5 trillion in tax cuts go to corporate America, at the same time giving tax breaks to corporations to create jobs, a tax advantage to create jobs overseas. That spending will add nearly $2 trillion to the deficit. $2 trillion of theft from our children's future in order to give a tax break to corporate America, which is permanent. This trickle-down economics, top 1%, has never produced jobs. It has only contributed to the deficit. Even the architects of supply-side economics have said to us, anyone who tells you that trickle-down will pay for itself, that's nonsense, it's not true. Even went so far on public record to say it's BS, using the full words. But it's early in the day. It's early in the day. So that just, but if you truly believed that those tax cuts are going to pay for themselves, then why would you come to us now and say, we've just added $2 trillion to the debt, so we can't really afford the investments you want to make in the domestic budget? And that is the dark cloud. We're engaged right now in this debate on the budget and how we keep government open. I think that the Republicans use DACA as an excuse to distract from the fact that they will not come to terms on the spending. If there ever was one dreamer in the world, and thank God there are, but if there never were one dreamer in our country and we're faced with this opportunity to protect them, we would still be having the fight over the deficit, over the caps. The caps, what that means, and you're all masters of budget, means that as we increase defense spending, we're saying, according to the budget agreement, that we must increase domestic spending. And we're not fighting the defense increase. We take an oath to protect and defend the American people. That's our first responsibility. We want our men and women in uniform to know that we have their backs. But it's important to note that the domestic agenda, 1/3 of the domestic agenda is security, homeland security, Veterans Affairs, anti-terrorism activities of the Justice Department, the State Department. 1/3, 34% of the domestic is a security function. So when we're fighting for increased domestic, we're fighting for that, but we're also saying that we measure the strength of our country not only in our military might, which is important, but in the health, education, and well-being of the American people. You cannot starve the domestic budget and be a strong nation. And in terms of the State Department, and part of this is so due to the incompetence of the Republican leadership in the Congress and the lack of leadership on the part of the White House. I'm sorry that this is, you want a report, I'm giving you a report. And by the way, I'm soft-pedaling it. No, I mean, it's breakfast and all, and we just did the arts and all that. But here's the thing. We're on our 4th continuing resolution. 100% of the Democrats voted for the first continuing resolution saying, okay, we need more time to get this done. We'll give you 3 more months. And then another CR, and then another CR, and then another CR, and God knows when this ends. And this is not harmful to our national defense. Defense Secretary Mattis, and I'll quote him because you'll know he asked about operating the greatest military by continuing resolution, and he said, it just creates unpredictability. It makes us rigid. We cannot deal with new and revealing threats. We know our enemies are not standing still, so it's about as unwise as it can be, end of quote. So this is no way to run a government by this just halting lack of decision-making. And what is the decision? The decision is, we're not saying we have to have the same amount of money as defense. We're saying we have to have the same amount of increase in defense. And what are we fighting for? We're fighting for bipartisan, and we didn't come in and say, here's our Democratic wish list. We said, where are our most bipartisan initiatives which have the most urgency in our country? Fighting the opioid epidemic. We need substantial resources to fight the opioid epidemic. 2, fighting for veterans, a stronger increase. Our veterans have needs that are almost endless. Increased funding for our veteran services and infrastructure. Reauthorizing community health centers and other health extenders, very important. They do CHIP. You can't do CHIP without community health centers, without investing in medical education for primary care docs. That all goes together. They were just doing CHIP so that they could do their Sophie's Choice between our kids, their kids, the way they framed it. They're all our kids. They're all our kids, and you should not put that choice before the American people. Saving America's endangered pensions. This is a very big issue. I know you face it in your communities. Again, providing strong recovery, disaster recovery. How can it be that we have to wait this long for Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands and other communities affected by hurricanes, wildfires, and the rest to get their resources? And protecting our dreamers. And protecting our dreamers. So that's what this conversation is about. And when I say protecting our dreamers, there is bipartisan support for the dreamers in the Congress, just not at the top where they would bring up a bill. So we'll see. Now, as we talk about all of that, we were very close, really, to getting the caps. The caps argument. What are the caps for domestic America? The caps discussion. We were very close to a solution, and then they just decided they were going down this other path on the Dreamers. And while I'm on the subject of Dreamers, since last night the president put forth a plan, let me just say what I said last night. That plan is a campaign to make America white again. It's a plan that says over 50% of the current legal immigration will be cut back, that many people will be sent out of the country. If you read through it, you're thinking, do they not understand that immigration has been the constant reinvigoration of America? When people come here with their hopes and dreams and aspirations and their optimism and their courage to make the future better for their families, they are honoring the vows of our founders, who predicated everything they did that every generation would make the future better for the next. And with those same values, these newcomers make America more American, instead of viewing it as something, in their word, alien. They should embrace it. They are changing the character of our country by what they are putting forth. They bring a tear to the eye of the Statue of Liberty, and they bring fear into the hearts of people who are here playing by the rules, people of faith and family, and committed to the future for their families and for our great country. So this is a fight about who we are. It's not just a fight about dreamers, important as that is. My goodness, if any country in the world got up one day and said, we're going to send 800,000 of young people who came here with their parents back to where they came from, we'd say that country is outside the circle of civilized human behavior. Instead, it's what's happening here. So we really have to embrace this and say, there is a solution. What are your concerns? Let's sit down and get this done. They want the ransom for these children to be $25 billion for a wall when we have all of the needs that we have for infrastructure in our own country. So this is a fight that we will be having, not about people, but about value, not just about people, but about values. And when it comes to sanctuary cities, and I thank so many of you for your courage on this subject, people don't understand. The one problem, I think, with the current occupant of the White House, they don't understand that sanctuary cities is what helps law enforcement. It helps public safety. If only they just understood how somebody can come forward if they know they're protected to help public safety. But they don't really want to know because that doesn't serve their purpose. And same thing with DACA. The president said, maybe I'll extend. No, don't extend it because you're just making matters worse. End it, solve it. Solve it, know what you're talking about. That would be good. So in any case, these are some of the, shall we say, values debates that we have. A budget should be a statement of our national values. What's important to us as a nation should be what is contained in that budget. And that budget should be investing in the health and education and well-being of the American people, as well as our resources to keep America safe, which is our first responsibility. We all take an oath to protect and defend our Constitution. Okay, my flight is leaving. Okay, I just wanted, Democrats have a better deal. Better jobs, better pay, better future. And under that is build, build, build. Build the infrastructure of America. So important throughout our country. We always had bipartisan support on infrastructure. Instead, they're leaking something that is completely unacceptable. And I'll tell you just one reason why you should be aware of what it does. Build the human infrastructure of America. Our people, their health, their education, they're our strength. And build our democracy. 1 year, January 6th, was 1 year since the intelligence community said that there was interference by Russia in our elections. You haven't seen hearings or anything. The Republicans refused to take it up. The White House refuses to acknowledge it. This is undermining our democracy. So build our infrastructure, build our human infrastructure, and build our democracy by ensuring that when people vote, who are eligible to vote, their vote is counted as cast. Because they handed me a note that my time is up, but as to say I have to go to the airport right now, I just want to quote 80 years ago, the father of USCM, Detroit Mayor Frank Murphy. He said this, and you probably know this: mayors are guardians of the idea without which civilization is a hollow shell. The idea that every man, no matter how meek and humble and inconspicuous, shall have his place in the sun. Mayor of Detroit said that 80 years ago. It's true then, true now. In the spirit of those inspiring words, let us pledge to always fight for the American people and the promise of the American dream. Together, again, bring it together from the arts, let us move forward to defend the promise of equal opportunity, of fairness. It's only about fairness, to defend progress for every woman, man, and child in every community and every city across America. Thank you for what you are all doing to honor the spirit of Mayor Frank Murphy. Thank you for what you are doing in your entrepreneurial way as mayors to take us into the future that meets the need, honors our responsibility to the American people. And thank you for the opportunity to share some views with you today. Thank you.
I'm not offended. Still gonna speak, but I'm not offended. Take care. You got everything? Got it. Appreciate you.
The breakfast is adjourned. Thank you.